everybody. It's Ukrainian show, formerly known as Ukraine, Russia, China. On Pod TV, my name is Sasha Star, and today's guests are Dr. Jonathan Lockwood. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you, Sasha. Glad to be here as always.
And we have
regardless of what the show is called.
Okay, well said. We have Ivan Kucherenko from Kyiv, Ukraine. Welcome to the show, Ivan.
Hello, Sasha. Hello, Jonathan. Hello to everyone. Glad to be here with you again today.
I'm pretty sure that you must have a clip for us, like a video.
Yeah, sure.
Can we start with that? Because we missed your videos.
Yeah, there we go.
I know. Okay, let's start.
Russia keeps hunting civilians along the front line. Pokrovsk, Kherson, Nikopol. Dozens of cities are hit daily by Russian drones. Russian forces treat frontline towns as training grounds, with civilians as moving targets for their drone operators. It doesn't matter if it's a woman or a child. Any civilian on the street is hunted in this human safari. Police officers and volunteers risk their lives to evacuate locals. Medics and rescue workers are targeted the moment they arrive to help. This is not just a war, it's terror. The world has enough power to stop this terror and protect human lives. Pressure on Russia must increase. Ukraine's air defense must be strengthened, and our weapons production must be supported. Ukraine counts on strong decisions from our partners in the US, Europe, and across the world.
That is a perfect introduction, Ivan.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. It's really good clip. I think to count on the effectiveness of the Western help to Ukraine, number one, what has to be done, it has to be completely killed the myth of Russians using nuclear weapons against Ukraine or the West or US or so on. Until it's not going to be done, I forgot which politician said, if you are subject to psychological attack by possibility of using nuclear weapons against you, you lost any hope to negotiate with this country or talk to them, or you might as well, because if they will feel that you're subject to such a psychological attack, they will next time ask for more and more and more, and you will have no choice as you already gave up so much. So you will give a little bit more. Okay, just don't bomb us with all your nuclear weapons. Please leave us alone. Give us another half an hour to leave. Oh, half an hour done. Okay, so take this and take a little bit of that. No, that's not a business.
And you're quite correct. And the clue is, two clues to that is that, of course, President Putin refers to his nuclear forces as Ядерная устрашение сил, nuclear intimidation forces. There's a very good reason for that. When the Russians encountered the word deterrence in the American writings, they did not they had no word for deterrence as we understand it. They first, as we've discussed before, and help me with this word because I always get the pronunciation messed up. So, сдерживание, to restrain or hold in check.
Сдерживание.
Сдерживание. Thank you. Always need that little linguistic help there occasionally because it's not my first language. But in any case, they saw that we had to restrain or hold in check, which they first translated. Then they would translate it as ustrashenia. So they had two translations. Intimidation, exactly. And eventually, one of their best Russian analysts, Henry Trofimenko, who belonged to the Institute for the Study of the USA and Canada. he came to the conclusion that although the Americans claim that the intent of deterrence is to restrain, the actual intent is ustrashenia, intimidation. So then eventually, the Russians adopted that for their nuclear forces, intimidation forces. And so of course, as I've also mentioned previously, Boris Yeltsin back in 1994 stated the only reason Russia is considered a great power is because its armed forces have nuclear weapons, which tells you pretty much everything you need to know about Russia's attitude towards its nuclear arsenal. Nuclear weapons are to the Russians far more important than having nuclear weapons are to the United States. To the United States, we've got all of this, great economy, great industrial base, all this other, all these blessings, and we have nuclear weapons. We're a great power, regardless of whether or not we have nuclear weapons. For the Russians, not so much. If they do not have a nuclear arsenal with which to intimidate the West and the world in general, then they are not a great power. They would not even consider themselves a great power. So that by extension is why the Soviets in the past feared the Strategic Defense Initiative, because they saw its potential to neutralize the one thing that made Soviet Union a great power. And it is why the Russians, and by extension the Chinese, now fear or claim that the proposed Golden Dome is, they call it, highly destabilizing. But it does not threaten their existence. It threatens their power. It threatens their ability to intimidate. If they do not have a nuclear arsenal that they can effectively intimidate and threaten the West, and particularly psychologically, if they cannot use that threat, then they are not a great power. They are not to be feared. They can be, and which goes to your point, that so long as we do not accept their attempt to psychologically intimidate the West, and saying essentially, if you unleash a nuclear war, remember, we have enough nuclear weapons to make it, to end Russia's existence too. So that's really pointless. So
yeah, and on this point, it seems funny when you look on Russians' reaction after Donald Trump ordered those two nuclear submarines to swim somewhere in some specific areas. And they it seemed that this in this game can play other party too. So it's not only us who can threaten with nuclear weapons. It's also Donald Trump who can send American nuclear submarines somewhere close to Russia, obviously, and they actually don't know how to react to this. And this shows actually that they're just bluffing, and all their nuclear rhetorics, all their nuclear threats, is regular bluffing. So
Putin, to continue his bluff, he should have said, Donald, you sent 2 submarines, you said? We are going to send 20 submarines, and they're bigger.
We have none.
if you can find 20 submarines that work.
In this case, it was better for Donald Trump to send the aircraft carrier close to Russian shore, because Russia has no aircraft carriers to respond with. They have 0 aircraft carriers.
Such a shame, but you don't have any aircraft carriers? Gee, such a pity.
No, they had one in the Admiral Gershon.
It's broken. It's a swimming mem aircraft carrier, which
didn't they give that to Ukraine?
No. Everyone was joking when they sent it to Syria shores, because it was swimming across the La Manche and across the Mediterranean Sea, and it was a really big smoke over him, and it seemed that it was still powered by coal. So everyone was joking about only one coal powered, steam powered Russian aircraft carrier.
Well, when they were decided to fix this so-called carrier. So the estimation was that it will cost approximately the same money either to fix this carrier or to build a new one. So because they didn't have money for neither of these two, they decided, okay, let's sell it for scrap. At least we will get some money, and we'll buy some villas in Italy and somewhere else.
What sucker did they get to buy it? I forget which sucker.
Son of Matvienko, who is the number 3 person in Russia. So her son now for many years lives in Italy on a villa with his wife and perhaps some children, or no children, but I don't remember, and I don't care. So this is very interesting implementation of European sanctions against Russia. So you don't allow average person who crosses the border and he needs place to eat, to rest, or so on. So they are preparing all kind of draconian action against these people. But someone who stole billions of dollars from Russian people, they allow to purchase villa in Italy and live there. Sorry.
Must be nice to have friends.
These friends are wasn't enemies. I'll tell you that. Well, so Donald Trump has, I think he's got the idea when he mentioned in his reply to tweet of this idiot Medvedev. He replied that, well, we have also weapons, and the nuclear weapons and all kinds of weapons, and they are stronger and bigger than yours, and they are much more precise when hitting.
Our weapons work.
Yeah, besides,
the hidden message was our weapons work.
In the meantime, on Friday this week is a deadline on the Trump ultimatum. Mm-hmm. And tomorrow, his special representative, his title now is Representative of Everything, Witkoff, Stephen Witkoff. He's a brilliant mind. He's the best.
If you don't believe it, just ask him.
Yeah. He's best thing since sliced bread come to America. So he's now being sent on Wednesday. He will be in Kremlin for talks with Putin. Anybody here can explain what are they going to talk about? Jonathan.
Hey, other than the weather and their health? I'm not sure what useful discussions they're going to have.
There is no much weather in Moscow. There are fires all over the places. Everything is burning. And about their health, I don't know about Witkoff, but I think Putin's health is deteriorating significantly. So okay, so they can discuss that.
They can basically run out the clock on Putin, so to speak.
So Witkoff will tell him, "Don't worry. Okay, there will be a little bit of action. It's not crucial. I mean, you're not gonna die next day on August 9th.
We give you another few weeks.
We can give you a few weeks, yeah. Mm. So in this few weeks, you will be able to kill even more Ukrainians, children, and women. Yeah, is that what you need, Putin? Tell me what it's all about. Ivan, what's your thoughts?
Yeah.
I hope that at least this time he will take interpreter with him from United States, but not from the Russian intelligence like it was previous times. But I don't know what to tell, what to discuss with Russia, because they already said that they are not afraid of any more sanctions, that they've managed to pass them in any ways, and now we see like Russia is buying all necessary military equipment across other countries, like some, for instance, they're buying engines for drones from China, and the recent investigation of Politica shows, and China just describes them as fridge equipment. It's not a drone engines, it's a fridge equipment. So they are spending money to buy, but I don't know whether this will really impact the possibility for Russia to earn money. If they will have no money to spend, then probably it will be more difficult for them to pass those sanctions.
Ivan, I hope Russia is not planning to build flying fridges with China's supplied parts. I hope they're not going to do that.
Look, Sasha, all that just reminds me of that old joke about during the Cold War about how we heard that the Russians were planning to claim they had a nuclear suitcase, a nuclear weapon that could fit in a suitcase. And their problem was they didn't have a problem with a nuclear weapon. Their problem was perfecting the suitcase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not strong suitcases. That's true. So we are talking about this visit of Witkoff, and my prediction is that it will yield zero results whatsoever.
I'm inclined to agree with that.
Because I just don't see where Putin will be able to yield anything at all. I'm not talking about even peace. But you know what? Now I'm thinking about all this 30 days peace idea is futile from the beginning, because even if Putin would agree to 30 days, okay, 30 days run. What's next? On 31st day, there is back to war. So what's the purpose of the 30 days? So Putin will be able to bring more ammunition and more weapons and more people to mobilize or so on. What's the purpose of 30 days? In Trump's sense, it was a purpose to have a significant significant peace arrangements, discuss, to draft, to do something. But with Putin, it's impossible. He understands only power. The power of sanctions and power of weapons supply to Ukraine. That's he understands. That's his language.
You're correct. That is the only currency in which he can deal. The currency of power. He does not understand or appreciate, mutual profitability or creating prosperity. He cares for none of that. His entire focus is on his own, I have to call it delusional vision of restoring the Russian Empire, or at least reversing the trend. And he is rapidly approaching his own crisis of communism or crisis of leadership, in which he either has to confront his ultimate failure, or he may decide in desperation to lash out. I'm hoping that he retains, and I'm hoping it is not a vain hope, that he has enough sense left to recognize that he really should recognize that his chess position is a lost one, and he should just flip over his king and resign the game.
Well, we know that he's not going to do it. And now about the concept of mutual prosperity, this is a foreign subject to Russians. Russians believe in zero-sum game. They believe that if one country prospers, whether it's, say, Soviet Union or Russia, then U.S. is declined just as a result of this prosperity, or just partial prosperity, or so on. So for him, the zero-sum game is, if something is good for U.S., it's automatically bad for Russia. And vice versa, something is good for US is bad for Russia. So therefore, it's impossible to negotiate with the idiots like that who believe in this dogma. So in the meantime, Ukraine is able to attack Russian-based targets, and very successfully. I hope, Ivan, you're following this information closely, and its recent attacks on the Russian airports and railways, and very successful. Can you tell us more about this?
Actually, there were deep strikes by Ukrainian drones also on Russian oil-producing infrastructure, which actually led to the increase on oil, on gas in Russian retail networks, and which is just funny that the country which produce actual oil, their oil well country like Russia is being called, they have increased prices on gas for the cars, and the regular Russians have to pay more and more just to power their cars with the gas. But it's not about doing something bad for regular Russians, although they are supporting this war, but also to prevent Russia from powering their military equipment, from powering their weapons and producing their weapons, and of course from achieving more incomes by trading their oil resources. So the less oil producing equipment and the less oil producing facilities, working facilities Russia will have, the less money they will earn, and the less money they will be able to spend on this war. So those attacks are continuous, and after the start of Russian full-scale invasion, Ukraine closed the civilian air traffic over the Ukraine. There are no planes, nor civilian planes can land in Ukrainian airports. That's why the officials from other countries, when they want to travel to Ukraine, they have to fly to Poland and then travel from Poland to Kyiv by train. I've been on vacation myself in Europe, and I had to go from Kyiv to Poland by train, and then fly from Poland to the destination I was. And Russia, they didn't close their skies for civilian aircraft. They're still flying, and because Ukraine is successfully attacking Russia with the drones every night, they have to delay the flights of their civilian airplanes, because they just can't land, or they just can't fly when in the skies there are Ukrainian drones, and when Russian air defense is trying to shoot them down. The last time they didn't close the sky over Russia, it was the time when a Russian air defense system shot down the Azerbaijani civilian airplane, and then but luckily it was able to fly to Kazakhstan, and then took emergency landing in Kazakhstan, and some people aboard, they were alive, and the plane was still intact, and it allowed to discover that airplane was actually shot down by the Russian air defense system Panzer. But Russia lied about that, and they said no, it was not us, it was not our air defense, it was like birds. They've damaged the engines, or another bullshit, like they were like they did when they shot down the MH17 airplane over the sky of Donbass in 2014. So
they were obviously Ukrainian birds.
Yeah, and what is important to understand that Russia is really a big country, and that the civilian aviation, that railroad connections are vitally important for Russia, because without possibility to fly from Vladivostok to Moscow, the possibility of Moscow to rule their provinces, actually far distant provinces, it will decrease. And we've actually seen that from the ancient empires. When for instance, the Roman Empire became really big, but because at that ancient times there were no airplanes, no railroads, no fast travel and
They
possibility.
didn't need them at that time. They had horses, and
They had horses, but when
They had also an excellent road system.
yeah, but when news from the capital of the empire, from the Rome, came to, for instance, Britain, when they had a colony, it would pass several weeks actually, and it influenced the possibility of Rome to rule effectively the distant provinces, and actually the lack of transport connections for Russia will also influence their possibility to rule effectively of their distant provinces, and may actually lead to some riots in those provinces when they can show that their disagreement with the Moscow policy, with this war which continues and which influences them, and probably we will see the time when distant Russian provinces will declare their independence from Russia. Why not?
That is an excellent point.
I would like to illustrate something with what you just said about Russian transportation system. Okay, so to build the roads, it's a long process, and the Russian roads are bad as always, and so this is a lost case. The railroads about the same thing. However, the avia transportation should be very beneficial because, let's see, if you imagine there is a city of Saratov and city of Krasnodar, okay, there's no roads, there's no railways, but you can fly quite easily from one place to another. But Russian transportation system, including avia transportation, is built the way that you have to fly from Saratov to Moscow and then from Moscow to Krasnodar. Okay, so if Moscow airport, like Vnukovo, for example, is disabled by Ukrainian drones, so people of Saratov and people of Krasnodar, we are very sorry for you.
You're isolated.
You're victims of your own war against a friendly neighbor, and your government led by war criminal Putin. That's why you cannot fly, not today, not tomorrow, for a long time as this long war lasts.
And as a matter of fact, as Ivan has been discussing, the cumulative effect of Ukraine's attacks on Russian infrastructure, Russian deep strikes against their oil, their airports, and other areas of the Russian infrastructure, which heretofore had not been touched, or they had not been allowed to touch them. But now that Ukraine has a free hand to strike deep against Russian infrastructure, this is having a cumulative effect and is steadily reducing Russia's ability to make any kind of meaningful offensive war against Ukraine. And it is going to culminate. We are approaching that culminating point that I have been awaiting for some time, where Ukraine will see the opportunity to throw that decisive punch, that decisive counterattack, in order to cut off the Russians in Crimea. That will be, I predict, will be the strike against the Kerch Bridge that takes it permanently out of action. That will sever the Russian logistical and reinforcement link to Crimea and open the opportunity for Ukraine to launch a decisive counteroffensive. Again, that's just my call. But I realize that is Ukraine's single biggest opportunity to bring a victorious end to the war in Ukraine.
And I have seen some articles, Western articles, where they are almost anticipating a very strong Ukrainian attack before the end of summer on Russian positions. It could be Crimea, it could be some others. But they are waiting to prove their taxpayers' base that the weapons which are you see, the problem is that no war in history was won by defending only.
That's correct.
regardless how well Ukrainians defending themselves and weapons as they're getting to complete their defense or so on. But that, in the minds of Western taxpayers, is not enough. If we are spending billions of dollars, we want to see at least some results, how these funds were used with effectiveness, with hurting Russians, and that somehow they would have to be addressed and fairly soon. Whether it will be Crimea or some other, or be multiple subjects.
It could.
See.
Depending on how well the Ukrainian military can sustain it logistically. They can either get several smaller victories or go for that one big victory against Crimea. And I believe that they are simply they are looking for and planning for that one big opportunity once they believe that they have reached what Clausewitz calls the culminating point of the Russian offensive. Once they believe that the Russians are exhausted, that will open the opportunity for a decisive counterattack. And you're correct, quite correct, that few nations have ever won a war purely with defense. And during the American Civil War, the Confederacy realized that they could not hope to defeat the Union and attain an independent Confederacy simply by staying on defense. And that was the motivation for General Robert E. Lee to conduct an invasion into Maryland at Antietam in 1862, and the subsequent invasion into Pennsylvania at the Battle of Gettysburg. Both were attempts by the Confederacy to force to win a peace, to win an independence by a decisive victory on northern territory, which would have, they believe, would have convinced Great Britain and France to intervene in the American Civil War. And that was what the Confederacy was hoping for. They were hoping to duplicate the success of the American Revolution in convincing Great Britain and France, in convincing France to intervene on the American side against Great Britain, which enabled the United States to become an independent country. So again, you are quite correct that the Ukrainians cannot simply hope to outlast the Russians with defense by itself. They can exhaust them to the point where a decisive counteroffensive is possible. That is their best hope for victory.
Yeah, I think that's where we are pretty well. And maybe another reason that the Ukrainian attack is not forthcoming is that they're waiting the results of this Trump's ultimatum. And maybe it will lead to some kind of peace. Who knows? Or second best, will weaken Russia even further to set the stage for a decisive counteroffensive by the Ukrainians. I think there is an understanding, and I think even Trump shares it, that certain things would definitely bring Putin to the table. But that hasn't been done yet. It was talk about doing this or that, but it hasn't been done yet. Therefore, Putin is not ready for peace talks. And therefore, maybe Trump will get the final message from his master of all trades, Mr. Witkoff, to say that, well, look, Putin is not there yet.
Okay, let's have the Ukrainians make him ready.
Exactly. I think he needs a little bit of help from Ukrainians.
A little encouragement.
And not only from Ukrainians, but also from the Europeans and United States and all other freedom-loving countries around the world who see what's happened in reality. Okay, with this, I would like to thank you very, very much for today's program. And we'll see you on Friday, exactly August 8th. And maybe we already know some of the results of this Witkoff's so-called Geschäft diplomacy. And
we can always choose to be relentlessly optimistic.
Absolutely, even if you are not. In the meantime, glory to Ukraine.
God bless America.
Героям слава.
God bless Ukraine. God bless Canada and province of Ontario.
I think we've got all the important countries covered. By God.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, and see you back on Friday, same place, same time. Bye-bye.
Bye.